while a retired colonel as a witness for the state of Illinois defending the state's gun and magazine ban, says he recommends using semi-automatic fire in military service. He would not recommend getting rid of fully automatic firearms as a line of last defense in the military. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with America's Talking Network and the Center Square. I'm Greg Bishop here in East St. Louis, preparing for the final day of the bench trial in Illinois' gun and magazine ban. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow along with me on X. Search Bishop on Air, and you'll be able to find the live posts from inside the courtroom for day 1, day 2, day 3, and today, day 4 of this bench trial. So day 3 of the trial had the plaintiffs in the case bring their last witness. Randy Watt was a retired police chief in Utah. He's also retired military, serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. He discussed a lot of his history in training, both military and police, but also in retirement, training the private sector for self-defense on a variety of firearms, from carbines to rifles and shotguns and AR platform pistols, saying that the weapons that are banned by the state of Illinois are suitable for self-defense. But as the plaintiffs finished up their witness testimony, you had the defense offer up their first witness, and that was retired Colonel Craig Tucker, who also served in Iraq and Afghanistan, being injured in Iraq and even getting the Purple Heart Award. But after being asked to retire from the military following an affair, he has become a witness for the state. So Tucker talked about his experience and also how he believes that military doctrine saying that you should focus using semi-automatic fire in military service is a way to make sure that you have better accuracy and you're not wasting ammunition. But when pressed by the defense, he did say he would not recommend getting rid of fully automatic firearms in the military. We weren't able to talk with either Watt or Tucker after the trial yesterday, but we did touch base with lead plaintiff in the Harrell case, Dane Harrell, and he shared with us some of his initial thoughts on how the trial is going so far.
Well, I think as I experienced in the first evolution here, a year and a half ago, very civil. It's good to see people, even though they disagree on a topic, being able to kind of work together to find a resolution for it. We may not all be satisfied with the results. Definitely half the room will be satisfied, the other half probably won't. But it's a good process. It's the one we have, and I think more than anything, we have to be patient with it.
Harrell also shared his thoughts about that first witness and his experience training military, police, and civilians in defensive use of a variety of different firearms.
Right. I think based on his 30 years in the military as a special forces officer, his extensive, 30-plus year career as a law enforcement officer, including a chief of police in a large city, he was kind of speaking from experience on what he experienced both from a civilian and from a military perspective, and what was effective in different environments. And he seemed to draw a clear distinction between the two. The semi-automatic firearms, which are available to American citizens, non-military, obviously have a place in our society for lawful purposes such as self-defense. And I thought he kind of laid that out, and his experience demonstrated he's seen a lot of that.
Harrell also provided his thoughts about the defense witness, Craig Tucker.
I thought what was interesting was Colonel Tucker's talked about his relationship with Gunner Eby, who was here on the first day. And the gunner is a resident expert on technical matters, including firearms, small arms, in the Marine Corps. It seemed that Colonel Tucker respected his opinion and might not have agreed with it on a large scale, but I think Gunner Eby's experience at the tactical level, at the individual rifleman level, kind of spoke for itself. I think he was, I don't want to say more credible, but I think he was a more effective witness for the plaintiff side.
Asked about Tucker's comments about not recommending getting rid of fully automatic firearms in military service, Harrell said that was a win for the plaintiffs.
That was, I think, a point for the plaintiffs, for our side in this case. And again, if the Circuit Court of Appeals has said that these are military weapons, and we're trying to address and come up with a conclusion or decision from the judge on that, I think Colonel Tucker effectively said that, well, it's the select fire full auto capable ones that are for military use. So the ones that we are trying to protect and trying to kind of free from the grasp of this restriction kind of stand on their own.
But Tucker also did say that semi-automatic fire is more accurate and he believes is better fit for use in the military.
I think he obviously has validity, and I think aim fire is obviously something that's preferable. But again, if you don't take away that option from military personnel that are doing military operations, and again, going back to Gunner Eve's experience, I know Colonel Tucker is a combat veteran. He paid the price for it. He earned a Purple Heart, obviously. But I think, again, when he talked about the variation in small unit tactics, I think there may have been many more instances of full auto fire that he didn't see that was going on in his area of responsibilities.
Something else discussed throughout the trial was the use of a variety of different features of semi-automatic firearms, like flash suppressors. And the defense asked about flash suppressors and if they're better used in a dark room like a movie theater so the shooter can better shoot that firearm in rapid fire.
That may be true. An unlawful use for a firearm that's commonly used by law-abiding citizens for lawful purposes can be used in a way that's egregious, in a way that's illegal. But for a homeowner or for a business owner or a private citizen that's trying to protect their life or their family's lives or those around them, then obviously there's utility in a benign or in a favorable way as well. So again, it depends on the intent of the person behind the firearm.
As a lead plaintiff in one of the consolidated cases, Harrell said that he felt he just needed to be involved.
I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be. I was asked to be one, and I think I've talked about my grandfather's experience in Denmark during the Nazi occupation, and he kind of laid it all on the line for freedom and risked the family. And when they asked me to be a named litigant, I thought about what he would have done if put in my shoes. I thought of what my late father would have done, and I thought, well, if not me, then who? So it wasn't a difficult decision, but it was one that was measured, and I don't regret it.
Harrell was also asked if he's a member of any certain groups as a matter of getting involved in the case.
No, I've worked with some other folks in the state, kind of on policy issues having to do with the Second Amendment. I'm a policy nerd. A poli-sci and a government undergraduate and master's degree kind of added to that, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't really that I asked to do it, and I would have preferred not to. But when they asked me, who should I send? I thought the right answer was, send me. So.
And ultimately, Harrell said he feels that the case is going well for the plaintiffs.
I think it's going well, and I think I've expressed before, this is a good lesson in civics. It requires a lot of patience. Both sides of this issue, it's an emotional issue, sometimes wave their arms a lot, and I'm not that kind of guy. And so my only hope is that we remain civil and we all work towards a common goal, which is to reduce the number of homicides and the number of killings, and we all want to see that. The question is balancing that with our individual rights and freedoms.
Throughout testimony, there have been multiple objections vocally announced by the defense, to which Judge Stephen McGlynn in the courtroom overruled most of those, taking into consideration some of them. But McGlynn, if you follow me on X, you can see these rough transcripts. He asked a variety of questions and made a variety of statements yesterday about the Second Amendment. He talked about how when seconds matter, the Second Amendment's important. I think a quote he said, and it's pretty familiar with those in the Second Amendment advocacy space, when seconds matter, police are minutes away, something that the plaintiff's witness, Watt, agreed with as a retired police officer. But McGlynn also went into a variety of different other questions with the plaintiff's witness about the use of different semi-automatic firearms and features, like a collapsible stock, ensuring that a small-statured individual could use that effectively. Also discussing the need for different types of features on semi-automatic firearms. McGlynn said that allows for individuals with disabilities to safely operate a semi-automatic firearm so that they can protect themselves. And it was interesting to hear McGlynn's comments, and maybe that provides a bit of insight into exactly how he may rule in this case. But with today being the final day expected with the final witness from the defense, You'll likely have closing arguments today as well. Then they'll wrap things up. But if you're trying to see how quick McGlynn may enter some kind of order on final judgment, we may have to wait for another 30 days for both sides to file some final paperwork and rebuttals and such, and then shortly thereafter, we may get that final judgment from McGlynn. In all of this, people asking, well, why are they talking about the difference between military firearms and civilian firearms when you have Bruin and the context of Heller with the issue of commonly owned firearms being protected and the issue of governments only being able to prohibit the use of dangerous and unusual firearms? And what about the Bruin text history and tradition precedents focused on the Second Amendment in the founding era? Well, if you look at the Seventh Circuit's order from the preliminary actions in these consolidated cases, the Seventh Circuit really focused on how they said the AR-15, for example, is too adjacent to military firearms and can be regulated. It really seems that the plaintiffs in this case are trying to develop that record so that they can show there is a clear difference between semi-automatic only firearms in the civilian market and those used by the military. That record being developed here in East St. Louis on the final day, heading into the courtroom. Be sure to follow me on X, search Bishop on Air for those live posts, and also be sure to go to thecentersquare.com for the latest in this case as we continue our coverage on the bench trial for Illinois' gun and magazine ban. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. Go to thecentersquare.com. Get Illinois in Focus on podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, and we'll see you back here for the latest with Illinois in Focus Daily. In East St. Louis, I'm Greg Bishop.